Russell.
Okay, we're reconvening in open session as Wicomico County Council for legislative session 2019-21, October 15th, 2019. The item on the agenda, the final item on the agenda is Warwick Community College, the master plan with Ray Hoy. I'm glad to have you here, Ray.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about our new master plan. What I want to do is lead you through the process. Our consultants, Horde Copeland Mock, developed the master plan in consultation with the entire campus community and folks from the external community. So just to let you know what those scope of services were, we're looking for a comprehensive assessment of the campus, our facilities, and then document what our specific needs are by campus. Even though the campus is young, we're getting to the point where infrastructure needs to be addressed, and some infrastructure issues have come up over the past few years: roofs, chillers, boilers, all those sorts of things. So we want to make sure that we're looking forward to deal with those issues. We wanted them to provide a 10-year facilities plan and a 20-year land use plan, and guide the development of the campus as we move forward, and suggest criteria for evaluating certain projects, high, low, and medium priority for the projects. And also, this is a requirement of the Maryland Higher Education Commission, so they have specific criteria, and we charge the consultants with making sure that they address the criteria as directed by the Maryland Higher Education Commission. Our specific goals were that the campus should have a symbolic and functional entry. We don't have a functional entry. And has nothing to do with the circle drive that comes into the campus. It's just you don't know where to go when you get there. And I'll address that more when we get into this. You'll see it. We need to have a focal point for the campus and a meaningful sequence of arrival. If new students don't know where to go, even visitors to the campus, you just don't know where to go when you come to our place. We want to have a strong identity created by our building materials. You realize that if you come to Warwick and you see our buildings, they all look very similar, and that's really by design. A lot of college campuses you go to, and buildings look different, and things don't look like they necessarily belong. We don't want that to happen. We want to encourage that same feel, so that if we put a building in Worcester County, for example, it would shout Warwick, or wherever you might see it.
Yellow brick.
The yellow brick. You know, it wouldn't have been my preference to start with, but
that's what we have.
it speaks Warwick, and so we're going to continue with that.
No, I'll tell you, but that's a big deal. I know just being on a lot of university campuses, you know, when you see that consistency of architecture, you know, you go to a Virginia Tech, you know, and you have all the stone and so forth. You know, people relate that to like Tech.
Exactly.
But then you go to like I'll use a James Madison as an example. They've had all these phases over the years. They got 60s building, 80s building. It's like
Everything's different.
Yeah, right. Yeah, what's your architecture? What's your yeah? So.
And honestly, Bill, my strong sense of that came growing up in Chestertown, our alma mater, Washington College.
Right.
They knocked down the women's gymnasium in the 60s and built a library on that site, and that library doesn't fit that campus.
Right, it
just doesn't look like it belongs there, and I knew it when I was a teenager. You know, it just didn't look right to me. And so we've maintained this strong sense of image of what Warwick should look like. And we want to have this traditional image and also fit the Eastern Shore. Also, one of our big concerns is vehicular circulation. We have areas on campus where we have conflicts between vehicles and pedestrians, and we want to avoid that as we go forward and see if we can dissipate that or eliminate it, at least manage it as we go forward. The interiors should have a high degree of flexibility because, as we've learned over the years, we have to change. Teaching has changed using more technology than when the buildings were originally constructed, and we've got to be able to be flexible enough to make many of those changes. And a well-located shipping and receiving area that can accommodate tractor trailers coming into campus and not having the conflicts with students and those sorts of things. So those were the underlying goals. This process was about a 7-month process. It began in August of 2018 and concluded in end of January, February 2019. It involved, again, a lot of participation both on campus and off campus. A lot of data gathering and that sort of thing, but also finding out from people their perceptions, from our students, their perceptions of the campus, what the campus should be, what it means to them, where our strengths are as a campus, where our weaknesses are. And then we went through a process where came back after the fact finding, met with the Board of Trustees, discussed what that was. They were given direction to go forward, and then they came back with their final report. So that just gives you a little background, taking a look at what their final analysis was, and to summarize. So you know the college campus, our existing campus. Let me see if I can use an arrow here. Here's Route 50. This is Walston Switch. We got the Circle Drive here coming in. We go down here along Long Ridge. The college is actually has 214 acres here on this corner, and we probably use about 37 acres for the campus as it currently exists. So I know you know the campus, and you've got a sense of that. This is an aerial image, and as you're looking down Route 50, the college owns all this property going down through here as well. We acquired this area right there. It's about 12 acres. You can see.
We can't see your arrow.
You can't see the arrows?
That's
I'm sorry.
that's
I can
all
see
right.
it. It's perfect. Okay. And I can't even shoot a
Where would it be?
a pointer up
The
there.
left-hand side?
So center top.
Okay.
You see the woods area that seems a little depressed? That had been logged before by the previous owner, and that 12-acre area was something that we acquired just a few years ago.
Okay.
And added it to the college thing. Thanks for pointing that out, because I'm thinking you're seeing everything I'm seeing.
I'm glad you did, because I was like,
What?
I kept looking up an arrow.
All right. So they looked at everything. They looked at the campus landscape, and we have a beautiful campus. I think everybody will agree. We hear it from people all the time. So they looked at the campus landscape. They looked at our active spaces where students are interacting on campus. That image on the left happens to be a community garden that helps support our Food for Students initiative. Faculty, staff, and students actually grow plants that we donate to students because about 49% of community college students are food insecure. And we have a food pantry and a program to help serve our students who have needs in that area. So our vehicle circulation patterns, as you see, there's a safety conflict. There's an S there. That's service and loading, but it gives us an indication of one of the areas where we have a conflict. The Child Care Center is right there at that corner, and that's our main entranceway for students. So very disconcerting to have all the traffic to the campus coming in that way. And you see also between G.H. Guerreri Hall and Shockley Hall, as well as Henson Hall and Fulton Owen Hall, again, pedestrian conflicts with traffic all through this area.
Dr. Hoy?
Yes.
I know you've been trying to get an exit out on Route 50 for a number of years to try to alleviate, and I kind of agree with you that would alleviate some, but you have a lot of folks travel Long Ridge Road now down to RV Road to get out to 50.
Right.
And I'm starting to get some complaints from some of the residents, not about the traffic, but about the condition of the road, you know.
And we actually encourage that egress,
Yeah, I
especially
understand you do.
southbound
Yeah.
or eastbound, in particular, because getting at certain hours, when classes let out in
Right.
certain hours, it's very challenging
Right.
to access 50. And if there's an accident at 50, which happens from time to time at that Walston Switch 50 intersection, that's the only way out. So, yeah, we do see a lot more traffic
Right,
using
right.
that area.
I want to bring that to the attention of the Public Works Department, because I don't think the roads are being maintained as much as they should be, you know. I'm starting to hear complaints from residents, you know, that
In that-
the roads
in
are-
that area.
yeah. Not about the traffic now, but about
Right.
basically the condition of the roads, you know.
And to your point about the egress onto Route 50, and I appreciate Wicomico County Planning and Zoning, they annually put that as a major priority in submission to the governor for projects in the county to allow us to at least have emergency egress, but we haven't been able to get anybody to move on that for us. But we really feel strongly that there should, at a minimum, be emergency egress from that north parking lot of the campus to Route 50. Be very helpful.
I don't remember that on the
Yeah.
transportation plan.
Been on there for a while.
It's been there. It's
I remember it the other night.
Are you talking Route 50, or are you talking about?
from the
Somebody-
north
they
lot of
men-
campus
At
to
some point,
Route
they
50.
mentioned it. the other
Okay,
night.
I got you. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Did you all have any
They
input when they did the traffic circle?
Only to the extent that we recommended that they have a longer feed-in lane coming up to that intersection, because we knew it would back up onto 50,
Yeah. That can
especially.
get pretty bad there sometimes.
Traffic can get very heavy right there, yeah. But honestly, because I live on the south side, southeast, and I come out and want to make a left-hand turn, I like the traffic circle much more than the stop sign, because I'm usually leaving when students are coming at 6:30 at night to come to classes, and I can't get out.
Yeah, I've gotten used to it.
I've gotten used to it,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not a bad thing, except for the people who come out of the Royal Farm, Arby's area and think they should turn left.
Yeah.
That's
that-
always a bit disconcerting.
And I thought I was used to it until I ended up in that Arby's.
Wrong lane.
Yeah.
In
And
the Arby's
I hear
lane.
that complaint a lot.
It's not well defined, especially for somebody who's new, doesn't travel that road very often. You're right.
It's one of the biggest complaints. that
Yeah,
ended up in
yeah.
We
Arby's.
can inform folks that they are going to get a traffic light at Ralston Switch and Mount Herman Road soon.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so.
I appreciate that, because that's an intersection I go
It's a
through, and
bad
it's
intersection,
a
yeah.
bad intersection. It's
It
tough
is.
to,
We've been
visually,
fighting
it's
for
tough
that
to
for a
see.
long time.
Thank you. I appreciate that personally, because I travel that every day. We also looked at site signage, knowing that sign on our corner needs to be changed, but we wanted to wait until we went through this process to make improvements there. As you probably recall, before the geothermal project, that was a pine tree field, and that sign probably worked really well. But now that there's so much space behind it, and we can't plant trees or anything else in geothermal, the geothermal pipes, there's 270 wells, and they're about, the pipelines are about 2.5 feet deep. So there's nothing with a root structure is gonna grow there. So we really need a better sign,
Will your new sign have the banner, rolling banner?
We'll see. We're still debating and discussing that, because one of the things we look at is with Arby's and Royal Farm, with all of their signage, those sorts of things, sometimes it gets to the point where it's a bit overwhelming to have that much more moving signage. But
We toned down.
our messages are pretty important, that, well, we think, to get out, to tell people about different events and those sorts of things. So we've kind of gone back and forth on that, and frankly, we're going to be discussing it tomorrow with a number of staff to get input from a number of different people. So we kind of talked about this, visitor front door. Where's our front door? Well, all those parking spaces are filled unless we cone them for you. They're filled by 8 o'clock when all the staff comes in, so there's really no student parking in the front except for handicap access parking. So if somebody's coming, a new student coming, that sort of thing, there's just, where do I go? How do I get there? Well, there's no parking here, and then how do I find, wayfinding is an issue. In spite of some of the, we do a pretty good job with signage, but wayfinding is an issue. So is this the student's front door? Well, there's nothing indicating that it is. And by the way, we redid that parking lot this past summer. You can see the condition it was in.
It was needed.
It was very much needed. So, but again, we just don't have a front door to the campus at the moment. And that's one of the things we asked the architects, the consultants, to consider as they put forth a plan. I mentioned the vehicular pedestrian conflicts. Here's a couple of examples. You see Guerreri Hall, and you see Maynard Technology especially. We had that same situation between Shockley and the Hazel Center at one point. You might recall driving under the bridge, if you will, coming into campus. We got rid of that about a dozen years ago and made the student entrance drive a little further to the south and past the Jordan Center, but we still have that issue here. And walking out of my office building, you can step right into the street, into the path of a car. If you're talking to somebody, I see it happen way too often, and occasionally people drive faster than they should through that way. This just shows you parking utilization on the campus, the most utilized, least utilized. Ever since we put in the solar array, the canopy solar array, we see lots of parking under the solar canopy. It shields the cars from too bright of sun as well as snow and rain. Our building ages, this is a year old, so Brunkhorst, original construction, 25 years. That includes Maynard Technology Center. The Hazel Center is 14 years now, Jordan Center, 13, Henson, 20, Guerreri, 18, Fulton Owen, 11, and then Shockley, 7. The only thing you're not seeing here is the maintenance building, and it was constructed the same time as Jordan Center about 13 years ago. So the buildings are starting to age a little bit. Some of the infrastructure, as I mentioned, chillers and boilers have had to be replaced, and re-roofing projects. In terms of our library, we don't have a library, never had, don't have a stack, don't have stacks because we don't have books. We've had an electronic library since the college began. It was quite an interesting initiative in the early days, but now that's the way everybody goes. Colleges still have books, but you don't see students using them anymore because everything is accessible through a digital library. And our library is accessible by students at home, but also on campus. And we have library support services, but it's a distributed system. So we have library space, if you will, media centers, resource centers in every building. And then we try to have study space for them as well across campus. And one of the thoughts is to consolidate that in the future. Food service space, you might be familiar with our food service operation, one central food service, and then vending areas across campus. Gathering spaces, many of them are co-located with some of the vending areas. And these are areas where students also study together, group study. One thing about community college students, because they're not in a residential capacity, they tend to spend time together when they're on campus, but they need to find space. And that's something that's been lacking on our campus. And we're space constrained. As you'll see, and I'll share with you, we qualify for 3 additional buildings today, with our current population. So part of the issue is we don't have enough study space in those sorts of spaces. Fitness and recreation, we call it that, but that half gym on the 3rd floor of Guerreri Hall is really for the academy. It's open to student access use between 12 and 1, Monday through Friday, and 4:45 to 6:30. It can go later to 8 in the mezzanine section that has the life fitness equipment. But very little student access for the fitness and wellness activities.
Gym.
We need a gym. We do need a gym. And honestly, that area you're looking at with the foosball and the ping pong table is probably going to go away because we might need that for some office space. So there's not much recreation space or fitness space on our campus.
You know, along those same lines, Ray, I was just glancing through it real quick, but I thought I saw, this might have been from the one previous to this, that at one point in time, weren't you looking at athletic fields?
Yes.
Wasn't there, I remember seeing
Did Larry chime in? I think
yeah, well, I remember, like I said, but I don't see.
he's visited me a number of times on this issue.
At the last dinner meeting we had, he said it was in the 5-year plan, so I was going to ask you about it. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of slid to the 10, but it's in this plan. It's in this plan, and I'll share with you why. But now we are currently the only community college, and frankly, the only public institution in Maryland that does not have intercollegiate athletics.
Right.
Carroll was a holdout, but they began their intercollegiate athletic program this year. They're a younger institution than Warwick, but we're the only institution without intercollegiate athletics at this
But
point.
it is on the radar screen.
It is, and I'm going to show it to you. I'll show you where it is, and I'll show you the fields. Okay.
Good.
So the Higher Education Commission projects, let me get that up there, that we should have a 1,200 student increase by 2027, which these plans are built for 10 years, and the building, the analysis for building needs is on a 10-year horizon. So they're talking about us having a 40% increase. What does that equate to? Well, about 147,000 gross square feet. So just for context, the Applied Technology Center is 40,000 gross, 24,000 net. So you can see that, you know, we need some spaces, and athletics recreation, 30,000 square feet right there, is part of what we qualify for. So this is
And that's
based on
just the building.
That's just the building, yeah, and that's net assignable. So it's obviously a much larger structure because it's, I won't say 50%. Obviously, it's probably 60-40 net gross to net. Office space, we're converting classrooms to offices all the time, unfortunately, and I hate doing that, but we've got to have a place for people. In fact, this spring, we're taking 2 small classes out of service to make 6 offices out of, because we don't have room for people. Very challenged in that regard. Study space, I mentioned, we need additional study space. Physical plant space, we don't have enough space there. Assembly, laboratory, classroom, and food and lounge. So you see that we qualify for lots of different spaces. So as they went through this analysis, they said, okay, what are your strengths? Well, beautiful buildings, as we know, well-maintained campus, relatively new facilities based on, colleges and universities and the age of many structures on many campuses, strong academic programs, especially in the allied health and criminal justice arena, were affordable to our citizens, and our library services are accessible and well-utilized, but as I said, there's no library space on campus. It's all an e-space. Opportunities continuing growth. Projected enrollment growth from the Higher Education Commission, you saw 40%. We have plenty of space to grow the campus. We're highly visible on Route 50, and we're near regional transportation, in fact, right across the street from the regional hub and all population centers. But it's still a challenge for people, for example, in Somerset County, if you're coming from Chrisfield, it's a 2-hour ride each way, 4 hours on the buses, because of the stops and everywhere it goes. So
I missed that part.
it's really a challenge for some people to come and go. So the guiding principles that they used to go forward is to strengthen the college's impact on economic development. I mean, that's what we're all about. Education and training in the lower shore for our region. Enhance our visibility and our access to the campus. Preserve that campus identity that we talked about, and create spaces to encourage student interaction. Students that interact more on campus seem to do better, and we want to encourage that. Yeah, Jim.
Through your traffic studies and all that, have you ever identified how many people actually use public transportation to get to the school versus driving their cars?
I don't know what those numbers are, but we get numbers from the shore transit and see what their ridership is and the times of day that are peak. They come through regularly, but sometimes students don't want to wait, and I don't like this. They actually cross Route 50 because
I see that happen.
you see that happening where they're walking. I've seen them with carriages, baby carriages going across, trying to get, I can get that bus. Not a safe thing, but it happens. I don't know the number, but we can probably find that out for you. But we get it from shore transit. Okay. So what's this all come down to? What's the proposed plan? It's, again, going back to what's our existing campus. You've got that in your head. You know the campus. This is the proposed development. There's 7.5 new buildings. Half the maintenance building expansion, that's E. But Larry, your gym is C. And you see the athletic fields, okay? The baseball field, right? Okay, soccer right there with it, and that sort of thing. Tennis courts. Okay, so, and as Larry knows, I'm an old jock. I was even a coach. I coached high school and college lacrosse. I coached soccer. I love intercollegiate athletics. I love sports, but you gotta focus on what you can do and when you can do it. So, and I know that it would increase our male student population, and frankly, that's a challenge. We're almost 70% female. And even though Title IX programs, we would have the equivalent number of male and female sports, I know it would increase our male population. There's no question about it. We lose a lot of students who go to other schools to play intercollegiate athletics at those institutions. Even community colleges, they come down here and recruit heavily our students to take them away. Yeah, Chesapeake, Cecil, Allegheny, Hartford, a number of different schools are down here poaching all the time. And, in many cases, I'll see them the next semester wearing a Seahawks shirt or something like that and say, hey, I went to Cecil last fall, but, I came home. But, some of them do, but all of them don't. But in any event, this is kind of the building layout for the future. Now, that's not going to happen while I'm here. Probably not going to happen while you're in these roles. But this is a long-range plan for the college campus. So let's look
Why
at...
don't you put in a swim team for that big pond you got back there?
We had a swim team at Chesapeake College, and actually they were quite competitive, but we had a pool.
You got that big pond back there.
Yeah, we got that pond.
Yeah.
The cement pond.
Yes, thank you, Jethro. So the vehicular transportation circulation issues, I brought those to your attention. They're proposing changing that completely and eliminating the egress that we currently have between the Maynard Technology Center and Brunkhorst Hall. That's closest to Route 50. It's going to make people travel around campus a little more, and, Joe, to your point, offload more people onto Long Ridge. But Short Ridge, that little road that comes in off Long Ridge to the right of the image up there, was added as a construction entrance when we built Fulton Owen and then Shockley Hall. It's become a strong entrance to the but not necessarily an egress because it's not lit. So we close it down at night because we don't have lights on it. Again, it wasn't constructed for that purpose, but we found a need for it. Loading docks and access. So with one of the new buildings being Building A, the newest building that we're planning, the Applied Technology Center, we're going to have loading and unloading for that particular facility because of the type of training and education, the construction trades and those sorts of things. So we're going to need to be able to unload and load things there. So we asked the consultants to site that building for us. We knew we wanted the building. We didn't know where it would be best suited on campus. If you're coming in off of Long Ridge to Horsebridge Road, which is just off of Long Ridge with the arrow on the end, that's Horsebridge. We have our maintenance facility E. We have all the way at the top end of that's where our food service and our bookstore is. So this would have a single line access for tractor trailer traffic to the campus to all of these particular facilities and keep them from traveling around campus and interfering with student spaces.
So you're going to be closing off the ingress and egress to the circle?
No,
That's still gonna be there?
Yeah, that's going to be there.
Okay.
I've got another,
That's
I can
all right.
show you
Okay.
a little better.
right.
The existing parking, and this is the amount of utilization. This shows the amount of utilization of parking. And then their proposed parking, if you look at Building A, you'll see a lot to the right of that. Again, this is long-term parking needs of the campus and how it would play out. So that's where the parking growth would end up by the time we need that. And they said it's about a 5-minute walk. I always have to laugh when students complain about how far they had to park away from their buildings on our campus. It is a laugh because if anybody's experienced it anywhere else, they're awfully darn close. Nobody's far
I
away.
was gonna ask you when you were gonna get your first bus.
On campus?
Campus.
Yeah. Well, we have buses because we train people to have bus driver, but we're not using it to go back and forth. This just shows our open existing space, but actually we're recommending tightening it up and closing it down. So you saw, and you can see here, the image of 4 additional buildings kind of at the end of the quad area that's now Fulton Owen and Shockley Hall. That stretch is getting too long. And they suggested we put a building on the end, and we can have room for 2 more buildings on the outside of that, push them out, and then the gyms across the street with that type of activity.
Are they added storm water ponds or are they already there?
Those are existing.
They are existing.
All of them are existing stormwater ponds. And the one to the far right in the center, below this baseball diamond,
Yes.
that's really located, I can't even see that field because, I can't see that. That's located where our pre-existing wastewater treatment plant
Okay.
facility was. And when we got city water and sewer and gave the city the water tower and that option, this went away. So it might be wetlands. I don't know that there's a pond there.
You haven't been there
Well, I've been there, but I haven't seen it.
lately.
Yeah. And again, these are the new proposed open spaces. So creating new plaza quad areas on the campus with the future buildings. Talked about site signage. Again, I think we have fairly well-defined wayfinding once you're on campus. The problem is finding what you're looking for as you come to campus. So we want to do a better job with this sign on Route 50. Clearly, that nice-looking sign is one that you may or may not notice, but it faces 50, but it's on the side of the college. You have to actually turn your head to the right when you're driving past to see that. Wouldn't have been a bad sign on the front corner, but you just have to know where to find it. This is the architect's rendition of something that we could have, an example. Again, there's not going to be any large trees or anything like that behind it between that and the buildings because of the geothermal field that's there. And you can see their conception of it lit at night. So back to the campus as it grows out. Here's how they're recommending, and we obviously participated in the discussion of this, the phasing. So existing campus, and then our phasing over the next 10-year period. And then the CIP that you're going to see next week, we have that building that's identified as a number 4 up there, new Learning Commons building. That is in the CIP, probably with design maybe in 2024 and through 2026. So that is, in our estimation, a greater need than the gymnasium, and the gymnasium would be the next building. And the reason for that is we need the campus space, we need the study space, we need the office space on campus, and that's going to provide us with that. The Applied Technology Center and roadway improvements that correspond with that. Let me see if I have an image of that. Okay, and then that's future buildings. There is actually no plan for all those things identified as 12. That's whatever folks in the future decide are needed, but what we try to do when we do the planning process is identify where they're going to be so that we don't trip up and put something that should be a future building site. Again, more of the phase development for that. This will give you a better indication. So with the Applied Technology Center, that's the location of it. It's the current soccer field. What you'll see here is the student entrance drive that used to be on the left-hand side of that building going through the Jordan Center, right next to the Jordan Center. We're proposing moving that down behind the Applied Technology Center. We also, did I do it? Yeah. So that's the road project as part of this. And also, at the top of that oval, the red oval, is a reconfiguration of the front lot. We actually want to have a front door. So we need to have some parking spaces there and more open access. So you can come to the front of the college, be greeted, and find out where to go. Because admissions is go down that hall to the right. If you show up at campus anytime and you want to go to admissions, you have to find a parking space someplace in the back of campus and then figure out where it is in the center of a building, is what it comes down to. So this would improve, strengthen our entrance, and this is all part of the Applied Technology Center project as submitted. It's an L-shaped building, about 40,000 square feet. That's 24,000 that assignable. It's going to have bays with high open ceilings, 3-story facility, much like the other buildings on campus in that regard. And as I mentioned, a yard for storage and access to the high bay doors. So that's kind of how that was going to work out. Really what we're doing here is emphasizing building trades and instructional technology, manufacturing, supply chain manufacturing, alternative energy. The wind turbines seem to be coming to Ocean City. They're going to need lots of training for people working in that industry. PLC technology, programmable logic control. Our non-credit coursework that we have in transportation, we really have a growing industry with the transportation and our transportation needs. And then HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and welding. Today, if you didn't take these things while you were in high school, the only way to learn that skill is to get a job with somebody and either apprentice, either officially or unofficially apprentice, or you're just not going to learn it. You're not going to get that opportunity. And what we want to be able to do is train people in these fields because there is a demand for folks in these trades in our community today. Further in this building, makerspace, we want community and students to work together in a collaborative environment where they can explore and innovate and do sorts of things with that.
Can you go back to the,
Yep. I think I can.
yeah, see, industrial trades, you had plumbing down there.
Yeah.
You know, Board of Ed in Wicomico County dropped their plumbing program.
They did because they couldn't get anybody in it.
Do you think that you would be able to,
Well,
you know,
well, I hope so
generate
because we
people?
sure need plumbers.
Oh, I know
I
that.
need one all the time.
I know.
So,
that's what I'm wondering. You know, they dropped it. They didn't seem to have any interest in trying to promote it. So, I
well,
don't
Joe,
know.
there's a difference between the interests of a 16 to 18-year-old
Yeah, I
and
understand.
an older adult who's looking for an occupation and a career.
So,
But
yeah.
they can't go back to the schools to get that
Right,
education
right.
later. So we're hopeful that people will see this as a real possibility
Mm-hmm.
and we'll be able to do something like that. I hear from the construction trades industries constantly how they need people
Mm-hmm.
in these trades. And we all need them, is the issue. I mean, I think I pay my doctor less than I pay my plumber.
Yeah, but The other thing, you need to start looking at how plumbing is licensed too. I think they have to work for a certain amount of time
Oh,
for
they
a
do.
licensed plumber.
And we can do that through apprentice
Right,
relationships.
right, yeah.
And industrial
I mean, that's
apprentice.
something that was disappointing to me, that they didn't pursue that harder, you know?
Yeah, when we eliminated our electronics program, I was really disappointed. But we couldn't get people in it. And sometimes you just have to recognize if nobody's going to take it,
Right.
whether it's good for them or not,
Right.
you can't make them.
And
Hi.
as far as the plumbing, when we found out Wicomico didn't have the program any longer, we had a meeting with all three of the Board of Eds, and I found out that Somerset and Worcester didn't have plumbing either. So all three of the schools in the Tri-County area didn't have that program. But if you don't have the students.
Hey, Dr. Hoy.
Hello.
I apologize for being late. And I apologize if you already answered this question, but it's related to the plumbing that they don't have at the CTE program. So if there's a student who is interested in plumbing and that you offer it, and is in the high school because they have dual enrollment with gifted and talented, could they dual enroll?
Once that program's up and running, in all likelihood, yes.
Okay.
And that would be the intent, and that's the intent with the public schools. This program will probably start out as continuing education,
Okay.
okay? So they're not going to earn college credits for it. Doesn't mean that we won't transition into that, and it doesn't mean it can't be used in a dual enrollment type relationship. Today, dual enrollment is designed for students to take credit classes, whether they're CTE or general education.
That's the gifted and talented
No,
program
that-
for the high school, is what Dr. Hanlon had explained to us. That's
Well,
not the dual
okay,
enrollment?
there's a gifted and talented component to it.
So that would
but
be 9th through 12th grade.
It's, today, there was a bill that was passed in 2013. It was called the College and Career Readiness Act and College Success Act of 2013. In that, they strongly encouraged the growth of dual enrollment. The Kerwin Commission is taking that a step further with college and career readiness by the end of 10th grade. That's the intent. And students would start college in the 11th grade. Many students, those students who are ready. Well, we already have about 550 to 600 high school students in our 3 counties taking college courses while they're in high school. Very few are taking non-credit career training programs. In the Kerwin plan, that design, there will be an avenue, an opportunity for them to take the non-credit. So today, if a student in high school takes something in the non-credit, they're usually doing it outside of their typical classroom, high school classroom hours. They might be taking it at night, and it doesn't count toward their high school graduation.
I see.
Prospectively, it's expected to also be able to count toward their high school credit count. So we're in that transition period right now, and one of the reasons that we want to include some of these things in the program is just for that, so that we're making sure that we're addressing that developing need, developing opportunity.
And that's available to 9th and 10th grade.
Interesting question. By contract with the schools, it's not, they have to be 16 years old. We're trying to, we're working with the schools right now to drop that requirement, so that if somebody's ready, that they can take it even earlier. A gifted and talented student can actually take classes before. We've had students as young as 10 years old take college courses, but they were gifted and talented. Gifted and talented is one avenue to take courses. Dual enrollment is another avenue, but it has specific requirements with each school system defining what those requirements are. So Somerset has a little bit different rules than Wicomico, than Worcester.
And there's new Comar laws state that, the new Comar laws that apply for gifted and talented. I guess that was the topic that we were talking
The
about.
gifted and talented allows any student to access some of our higher education courses if they meet certain criteria. So they can be any age.
So is transportation for them? for high-
Transportation's always an issue.
So
Yeah.
how do they get from,
Parents, older students, we actually, working together with the schools and Shore Transit, tried to provide a transportation opportunity from the 3 high schools here in Salisbury to the college, and nobody wanted it. So they all figured out how to get there. They all figure out how to get there.
So if you don't have transportation, you don't go.
Exactly. But we do go to the schools, and we teach college-level courses in many of the high schools. So that's another outreach that we work with the schools to help develop.
Okay.
So we're looking at any number of different ways to address those issues to make sure that people aren't missing out on opportunities. But there are people who are missing.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Sure.
That's good.
Again, I was talking about the makerspace, and we're at the end anyway. So I appreciate all the support that we get from you, and as you know, it's vital to the success of our students and our community. And with your support and help, we've been changing lives since 1975 and plan to continue to do so by addressing whatever needs come forward.
Is this the same presentation that you did in Ocean City about a week or so ago? I read
No.
that article.
Now, Michael James contacted me. That was their first meeting of the year. They don't meet over the summer months. It was the first meeting of the year of the Ocean City Economic Development Committee, and he asked for a specific, asked me to come and talk about workforce. And I really tailored it to hospitality, tourism, government, and the industries that are in the Ocean City community.
Correct.
So worked with them specifically on that sort of thing.
You've done a really great job in expanding the campus, and a lot of that has been contributions, and not to shirk the responsibility of the county, because we certainly want to contribute as much as we can. How do you find your outside contributions working? Because you've always done a great job, with your buildings and your naming buildings, et cetera, et cetera. Do you see that as continuing on?
Wow, I couldn't have asked you to ask me a better question. We're actually, okay, I know it's public, but we're in the quiet phase of a campaign to raise about $10 million. And part of it is because this new building, the Applied Technology Center, the state does not participate in the purchase of equipment, technology equipment that doesn't have a lifespan of more than 15 years. And I dare any of you to tell me anything you have is technology that lasts 15 years. It just doesn't for 2 years. So exactly. So we've identified about $2.5 million in this building that is unlikely to be eligible for state funding. So we need to raise that money.
So it's not going as much to brick and mortar it is to
Equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So the state and you and Worcester County have been generous in your contributions to the construction of facilities on our campus and have addressed those needs. And we've tried to help supplement that with gifts and donations from the community. Last night we had a foundation board meeting, and I talked to the foundation board about this. And at the end of the night, I wasn't intended, but had $160,000 in contributions to the campaign. So that was extremely generous and wonderful, surprising. Bill, you're on the campaign committee. Thank you very much. So I've asked Bill to join the campaign committee. Good job.
Did he match it?
That was that matching grant that I offered
Well,
up.
and that's something I'll mention. So we have some matching opportunities, and that's why it's a great time to do this. This past legislative session, the state passed a bill to provide all 16 Maryland community colleges, actually Baltimore County and Montgomery have multiple colleges, campuses, and so they get multiple shots at this. But if we raise $250,000 in the next 2 years, they'll match it with $250,000, and upon successful completion of that, an additional 2 years of $250,000, they'll match that. So $500,000 from the state will generate $1 million, and it's for workforce technology. So, which is what we're building here. So this gives us an opportunity and a way to encourage people to want to maximize their contributions. We've got a dollar for dollar match going forward. And actually have another matching opportunity that we'll be able to announce soon that will even expand beyond that. So we're really excited about that. We do get a lot of support from the community. We obviously need more. And we're trying to do everything we possibly can to ensure that we are providing education using the highest technology available and using the tools that the students are going to be using when they move into the workforce.
Which is really good. I mean, we met at Greater Salisbury Committee with a major industry that, of course, is associated with the offshore wind who are very seriously looking at Wicomico County and how they can maybe, use Wicomico County to their benefit, and vice versa. And they were very concerned about the airport. They thought that was a huge plus. They were also extremely concerned about the community college and anxious to know that the community college was very strong in developing with industries to try to create the workforce, targeted towards their industry.
Right, and as you know, that's our role.
Huge draw.
We
Yeah.
try to address workforce needs as they develop. We can't address them all. A perfect example is automotive. We had 21 automotive dealers come to us and say, we need higher trained individuals in the automotive industry before we're ready to send them to Honda school, Mercedes school, Toyota school, whatever.
Right.
They've got to have a higher level of skills coming to the employers before they can do that. I thought it was gap training, and I thought we might be able to do that, but what they're telling us is they really want degrees and certificates, college degrees and certificates before they start working for them, before they send them on to these industry-specific schools. And, our partner to the north, Del Tech, has a automotive program, and they're doing a good job. The cost of us trying to duplicate what they're able to do there is pretty expensive and not on the radar at the moment. But so we're not able to address all needs, but we try as much as possible. And if it was gap training, we probably would have been able to figure out a way. But to implement a 2-year program in those areas just seems to be outside of our ability at the moment.
So they're saying that what the public education, Wicomico Public Education is doing as far as automotive training is not sufficient?
I won't speak for them, but they have a number of people who come to them who were just like the people who didn't go into plumbing, who want a job. And they might be able to change oil and rotate tires, but that's not the level of person that they want.
Right.
They want a trained individual before they move into the next thing. So, I don't know how many students they have in the public schools in those programs and what more they need before they can go into these areas. But, it was very interesting that Pohanka came to us first, and so we said, well, let's find out if this is an industry-wide issue, and we just sent out, as we do, a call to the industry and said, if you want to talk to us about this, here's a date and here's a time, come see. And 21 different auto dealerships showed up. It was eye-opening.
They all want more trained employees. So
They all want more trained employees.
So they have more to
We've done
choose
this.
from, but-
We've done this with the healthcare industry. We've got one coming up in a couple of weeks with the hospitality and tourism industry, and we do these routinely just to make sure that we're providing the education training levels that they need in the workforce.
Great. Any further questions?
Thanks.
Yep. Well, just wanted to bring you up to date, and I want to thank you for your support, your continuing support.
And in the
college.
CIP, we're going to see the first phases of this.
Yes, you already have it.
No, we won't get it until December.
Okay.
It goes to the county executive's
It's
office
county executive's
first.
office. Okay.
But we're going to be seeing it
You'll
that
be
soon.
seeing it. And,
Good.
and in that, you have the 3 years of this particular, of the Applied Technology Center, and then we'll be requesting funding in the future for the Learning Commons.
The great thing is you're dead on target with your programs and so forth for workforce development, matching what the community needs are. And it's just, and you're talking about your adaptability, that's tremendous. Like I said, there's meetings, this past week, I know, John, you've been in a couple of those meetings, and I've been in 2 meetings with GE just over the last week or so, as far as wind energy. And
Right.
if that happens to come here, those jobs, they need that adaptability pretty quick, and we've got a community college that can do that.
And that's what this new building is going to be there for.
Be there for it.
We already told them we'd have it.
Yeah,
Not the building, but
we said it's no problem.
We're backing on it, okay. We got it. We got
You
this
know what you
covered.
get yourself
We got
into,
this
right?
covered. Let's bring those industries in, let's help them move and grow, and
Listen.
we'll train the workforce to address their needs,
Very good.
okay?
All right, Dr. Hoy, thank you.
Thank
very
you,
much
thank
for
you
the
so much.
presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate seeing all of you.
Entertain a
Thanks for
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Means adjourn.